Yikes. Okay, yeah, that was actually really cheesy. I thought it was going to be much better than that. It was not. Apologize. I won't do that any longer, but let's get back into this build. How's that? Which, as you probably already guessed, is this patterned oak and walnut surround reclaimed mirror. It was a fun project. Let's get into it. So the beginning of one project means the closing of another. I recently finished this bench build. Here's some photos. I really love how it turned out. So similar to most other projects, I drew the plans for this mirror on paper first. I don't know really why I like this part of the design process so much. It's got to be something about how my brain told my hand to draw something that my brain came up with in the first place. I don't know, that's kind of cool. So speaking of ideas, the concept for this mirror is simple if you like puzzles, but complex if you hate math. I start out with a single triangle, and I kind of build from there. I know I'm going to need a lot more triangles. So to bring all these pieces together, I'm going with a sort of panel construction. To do this, I grab a really thin piece of plywood stock, slightly larger than the panel I'm creating, line that up with a straight edge, lay out my design, and glue the pieces into place. I make the other side panel as a mirror image of this one, and I do the same with the top and bottom. Once the glue is set, I lay out the 4 oversized panels in the configuration that I like the best. As you can see here, it's important to make sure the design is coming together and all the pieces fit. Here, I'm sanding dried glue from the edge of each panel that I used as a reference on the straight edge during glue up. And this is definitely not the best way to get a flat and smooth edge on a piece of wood, but these pieces were way too fragile to send through my jointer. From there, I take that smooth edge, run it through my table saw, and cut it down to size. So as you watch me cut the rest of these panels down to their final length, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for watching this video. Now I know I'm not the best woodworker on this platform, and this is certainly not the best video on this platform, but I so appreciate the opportunity to practice both of these skills with you following along. So if that kind of thing sounds like something you might be interested in, and if I've earned it so far, I would appreciate so much if you like this video, or maybe even subscribe to my channel. Thanks! Alright, so with the panels cut down to their final length, it's time to get started on the walnut surround. I'm using some scrap walnut here. You might be able to see in the video, but it's got a beveled edge from the previous project. At the table saw, I ripped these down to 3/4 of an inch width to get rid of that beveled edge. So over at the workpiece, you might be able to get a sense of how this is shaping up so far. The walnut pieces that I just recently cut will go on the inside portion of this mirror to create a kind of interior frame. I wanted this frame to have mitered edges. This will give it a really sharp look, but definitely ups the difficulty. As you can see, taking final measurements here was a little tough because these had not been secured in place, but the secret here is to cut those pieces along the first time, then sneak up with the cut slowly after a couple passes. After several tries and after I'm happy with the fit of the miters, it's time to get to sanding. Gluing up this little frame was not easy. I didn't have the right tools for this. A lot of people use a ratchet clamp. I didn't have that, so I'm using these screw clamps that I got from Rockler. This took quite a bit of finessing. As you can see here, I'm checking square repeatedly. I'm tightening, I'm loosening, I'm tightening, I'm loosening. But after all was said and done, I think I actually liked how this turned out, and they were square enough for me. So I went back and forth quite a few times on how I wanted to put this all together. What I ended on was to sandwich the mirror between the side panels and this 1/4 inch plywood sheet. Getting this down to final size was real easy. Just trace out the shape and cut it down with my Kreg track saw. Yoink! With my backer board cut down to size, it's time to do this big glue up. But not before I address one big issue: the width of the mirror. If I glued up the side panels straight to the backer board onto the mirror, sandwiching the mirror in between, I'd have a gap left by the space of the mirror. To fix this, I dig back into my scrap pile to find some pieces that I can plane down to the exact same thickness as the mirror. This approach also has a secondary benefit of adding a little bit more rigidity to the final frame. Gluing these pieces in place is fairly straightforward, as long as you remember to keep the mirror snug to the edge of these spacer pieces. Remember, the mirror is only held in place by being sandwiched between the backer board and the geometric face panels that we created in the beginning of this video. With the spacers and mirror glued into place, We can grab a straight edge and set those face panels. I set all 4 face panels at once here. This will give me the best opportunity to ensure alignment and spacing with all 4 panels before the glue sets. This definitely took some finessing, but the ability to adjust the pieces on the fly was definitely worth the extra headache. One additional alignment consideration to make here is to ensure that I had space for this interior frame. Setting it, but not yet gluing it, allowed me to make final tweaks to the face panels. From there, this is really just a simple clamp job. And then, since I know the interior frame fits perfectly, I can glue it home. I try not to use too much glue here because I know that any squeeze out is going to be really difficult to remove later once this is all assembled. Really love the feature of these DeWalt clamps that allow you to flip the head and apply outward pressure. This became a really important tool because I frankly don't know how I would have done this otherwise. I noticed this little loose spot here. I didn't have any more clamps that could reach that area, so shout out Titebond. It's the right tool for the job. And so with exact and final dimensions finally known, I can now get started on the exterior frame of this project, which are mitered 1.5-inch walnut strips. The most difficult part here is ensuring all of those pieces are just the right size. Glue up is simple. Glue on the inside, on the mitered edges, clamp it into place. For finish, nothing fancy. I just wanted something that was going to bring out the natural colors of both the white oak and the black walnut. This Varathane classic penetrating wood stain in natural color is perfect. It goes on super smooth. It's kind of one of those wipe on, wipe off situations. Yeah, I think that turned out really great. At this point in the build, I still wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do with this mirror after I completed it. I didn't know if I was going to keep it or sell it. But what I did know is that with all this wood, this mirror got very heavy. So just to be safe, on the backside I installed these hooks and some picture wire. This would give the flexibility to any future owner to decide for themselves how they would like to display it. And with that, we've got a complete geometric white oak black walnut mirror, folks. Let me know, should I keep it? Should I sell it? Thanks for watching.